program is part of the Scene Projects Podcast Network. The Scene Project features interviews with independent musicians, comedians, and artists from across the Midwest. Become part of our community and support local art wherever you are. Well, welcome into another exciting episode of The Scene. I am your host, Bubba Startz, and with me today is Brad Stewart. Brad, welcome to the show.
Thank you. How's it going?
It's going well. You know what? I figured just best, I'm going to let you introduce your agencies and the things that you do and allow you to give us a little bit of the backstory because it's all kind of tied in together. And then obviously we're going to talk a lot about your new venture with Mogul AI. But the floor is yours, sir. Give us a little bit of the backstory here and we'll jump into the future.
Sounds good. Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. So I started out as a booking agent in Charlotte, North Carolina with a boutique agency. Worked with about 30 to 35 bands a year, and I worked with them for 8.5 years. So you can do the math on 30, 35 bands a year times 8 or so. That's how many bands, and all I did was booking and I was one of 3 people that did the entire US and Canada for that company. I then moved to Nashville, Tennessee. My wife got a job opportunity in Nashville, and it definitely made sense for me to be in Nashville over a banking city. So I made the change. When I did that, I started Stewart Entertainment Agency, though. And that started in 2014. And ever since, we've been operating as a booking agency, management agency, publisher, publicist. I do consulting and mentorship as well, mainly for the artists that are not quite ready for a full-time professional representation. So I kind of did that because it's like I could still help you out, but without getting into like a 360 deal or a full contract. So, so that's how things started. COVID definitely put the kibosh on our entire industry. And, after that, came back in and started to rebuild and rehire agents and all that stuff. And up until about May of this year, I thought there had to be a better way. I feel like the current model for most agencies and for artists as well is really broken. So what I did was I started a sister company called Mogul AI, and it is essentially a software, and it's really the first of its kind software. And I think it's going to revolutionize the way independent artists do business. But it is basically going to automate the booking, the marketing, and the management functions for them. And it is backed by my 20 years of expertise and knowledge. They get access to my database, all the workflows, the emails, the templates, all that kind of stuff. And it basically gives them control over their business. So it essentially helps them set up the infrastructure and the systems that most of them need. Most of them do not have any kind of system. So that's what it's designed to do, is to do that heavy lifting for them. And then Stewart Entertainment Agency is able to offer consulting and mentorship either as an add-on to that software or as a standalone service. So to me, the right formula for today's music industry is really a combination of leveraging technology to automate those repetitive tasks, but having the personalized approach from a consultant with 20 years of knowledge to help guide, the brand or do strategic partnerships or publishing. And there's just a number of things that the software can't do. And we're still in a relationships business. So for me, the combination of the two of those is the right formula for success. And that's what I've built. It's currently in beta testing at the moment. We're scheduled to go live the second week of January for the official launch. We've done a soft launch. We have a number of artists that are already testing it out, giving us feedback and making it better already. So I'm super excited to be able to announce this to the world and to, implement and deploy this, because it's really going to change people's lives. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, and we are in the age of the independent artist, as the industry has all but cannibalized itself completely at this point. AI artists are topping the Billboard charts. YouTube's no longer sending data to Billboard. iHeart is being bought out and having their podcast bought by Netflix. Like, the world is going crazy. It's only a matter of time before it completely eats itself. And all of these people with 6-figure and 7-figure salaries at the top put themselves out of jobs, as well as they have put out a lot of the little guys. And a lot of people in your field have already been put out of work because there's just not a lot of gigs. I mean, I know I'm surprised that you're still here, and I'm sure a lot of your friends in the booking industry had to find other jobs through COVID because there weren't the gigs anymore, right? And to survive, Brad, is a testament to your thinking on your feet. And this is no different. I was really thrilled to see you pop up on my calendar, to get to know you and to get to know this program a little bit. And I hope I get to put some eyes on it and to see what it can do, because for a small, like, I grew up in South Dakota. I've always been an independent artist, and I've never had the dream of going and getting signed by any number of record labels or any of that. To me, that dream died along with a lot of other things that have died. MTV and things that I remember from my childhood, Rolling Stone, and yeah, they're still around, but they're so much different than they used to be. And we need the tools, right? And with the tools, you need a little bit of that human element still to it, because not just in using it, but in the right way to behave in some of these situations. If you're going to have to put on the hat of the booking agent, then you're going to have to, even though you have a tool that can function to do some of the repetitive tasks, you need to know how to talk and how to structure deals like a booking agent would as well.
That's right. That's right. Yes. And, it's everything you said is 100%. Wages, or, the guarantees for artists have essentially stayed the same for 15 years, maybe longer than that, actually, but the cost and the expenses of gas and cost of living and all that has all gone up. So the margins have been shrinking, not only for the artists, but for the agencies as well. And, for most artists to get on with a booking agency, we need you to already have momentum. We need to see some data and some numbers behind what you're doing. And typically the point where agencies start to get interested in your band is once you hit at least like 150K a year in annual live revenue gross. We really want you to be in that 200,000 to 300,000 level because we get paid a percentage of commission. And, if you're doing 100 grand a year and you got a deal on us, which below like 150, you're typically paying 15%. But let's just say you got a deal with an agent and you got them for 10% and you're doing 100 grand a year. That's only $10,000 for us as an agency. Our staff, the office manager, the agents, everybody, we only get paid 10 grand to book you for a whole year. You're paying a publicist, $5 grand a month to promote your album. They only do that for 3 months. They get 15 grand in 3 months. So like the numbers and the math, that's just where the math works out. And that's why, but most artists struggle to get to that 150, 200K a year mark, because they have to wear all the hats. They have to produce the music. They have to deliver the show. They have to be a manager, a publicist, a social media marketer. They have to do all of this. And, they haven't even performed yet, so they burn out. And so that is really where I saw the need to fill the gap, because I can't tell you how many tremendously talented artists that I've come across in my 20 years that are honestly more talented than the bands that are doing more in revenue. They really are. The majority of them are. But the problem is that they burn out before they ever reach that point to get to a booking agent.
Yeah, or they run out of money, because to get out and to play enough shows to have made 150,000 a year, say you're only making 1,000 of shows, you played 150, you probably spent $250,000 to play those 150 shows and only recouped 150, right? So the numbers, the math just doesn't math, Brad.
You said it. And that's when, you know, I've been doing this for such a long time. I have to look at the numbers for my agency as well as for them. And I've done the consulting. I know I've done the management. I know what their numbers look like. I know what our numbers look like. And the juice just isn't worth the squeeze for both parties, honestly. And that's why I was like, I looked at a bunch of other softwares throughout the years to help me. I was like, maybe I could find another software to help me run my business and the agency better. But the majority of them are basically just CRMs. They're just customer retention management software. It just helps you kind of organize your stuff. It doesn't actually do anything for you. And so that's why I was like, I can't find anything that's going to help me operate more efficiently. I'm just going to build my own. And I was like, worst case scenario, I'll use the software inside Stewart Entertainment Agency that'll allow me to scale from having 10 bands at a time to 100 bands at a time. And I was like, so let's do it. You know, I was like, I know I love technology. I've always been passionate about operations and inefficiencies, and strategic partnerships really is what I do for the most part. And so that's when I was like, I know I have the knowledge. I have, you know, like I know the need. I have the knowledge. I just need a team to help me build it out. I'm not a developer, so I've hired a company to help me develop. You know, I've given them the blueprint, and I've given them.
It. That was my next question, Brad.
Yeah, you know, I used to do some coding back in the MySpace days, way back when. Definitely showing my age here now, but you know, that is. I can kind of understand some of that, but that's not my lane. So I've definitely learned in, you know, consulting, you need to pay people for their 10, 20, 30, 40,000 hours and so you can stay in your lane. And that's what I've done. But I have some of the best developers in the world working on this out of Silicon Valley. And it's insane. You know, they kept telling me, stop building features you know, into this. And, you know, most founders or developers, they would have just built a booking software, just the marketing or just the management. And I was like, it has to be all three, because they're all three connected. And if one of them isn't working, the other two suffer. So,
and it honestly speaks to what most artists and bands and a lot of, like you said, I mean, I'm a songwriter and a musician myself. So selfishly, I'm like, man, I would love to see what this could do, because it's not that I'm not motivated. It's that eventually you just run out of time, and trying to wear all of the hats, there's not enough time, and one of them suffers. Right. That's and if you're doing all of the business things, then you're not creating the art that got you the gig in the first place. So,
which is the whole reason why you got into the music industry, was not to learn about A/B testing and ads and metadata and, you know, all this, you know, like that's not why most artists get into this. And God bless the ones that can do it all. There are a few who, God bless you guys, that can do all of that. And, you know, but at some point, even if you can do all of that, you need a team around you. None of us do this by ourselves. No one does it by themselves. Because at some point you will burn out. Even if you know how to do it all, you will burn out at some point, because it's too much to handle. And, you know,
that's where the consulting side and still having the agency melds very well with the tech stack that you're providing, is that you still have something to offer, your knowledge and your experience are still extremely valuable, but it's only valuable if it's worth your time to do it as well. And
Right.
what the AI is helping you do is to make your time more valuable by making you more efficient. Like you said, if you're the only one who's using it at the end of the day, it's going to allow you to help more people and to actually be able to invest into them because you're able to automate some of the processes that you are spending exorbitant amounts of time doing, whether it's emailing venues. And like, I've done it all. I've never had a manager. I've never had a booking agent. I've never done any of it, you know. And last year I was on tour for a considerable amount of time, and not necessarily just with the band. I was doing podcast stuff as well, but I was the one who contacted all of these people. I know the exorbitant amount of time that went into it. And by the time I got home, Brad, I was collapsing under the weight of the stress and just being plumb tired.
Yeah. And that's, you know, that's the consulting and the mentorship side of things is critical. You know, we've broken it down to where like you can just do the booking agent, because some bands are like, well, I've got a manager, I've got a publicity team that I like, I just need someone to help me do bookings. And you can do that with the software. Now we give you a bundle pricing if you do all three. You know, you save $1,000 a year if you do all three, and that is honestly the biggest value. But you're able to just do the booking, or just do the marketing, or just do the management agents, because there's 3 agents in the software, one for each of those. But the consulting and the mentorship is really the secret sauce, on top of course, the IP. And, you know, our site is, it is all custom coded. This is not a vibe coded thing at all. You know, this is completely custom software that is specifically designed for independent bands, musicians, and DJs. And so right now, you know, the consulting and the mentorship side, like you can learn. I have over 40,000 hours. I have, you know, like I've been doing this for 20 years, but I have over 40,000 hours of doing this. The artist can learn from my mistakes. I've made tons of mistakes. I've watched all the other mistakes. I've learned from the other mistakes from all the teams that I've worked with, you know, from their managers and their publicists. And I know who's worth the money and who's not worth the money. And, you know, like we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, you know, launching artists and campaigns. And I mean, hundreds of bands that I've worked with over the years. And there are common denominators, you know, for success and failures. And that's what you get is a faster track from point A to point B with that consulting and mentorship. And like I said, you don't have to have that, but we feel that that is the right formula combined with that infrastructure and the software, which you have control over, by the way. You know, so that's another thing that we can certainly talk about is, you know, the software is really meant to get bands from, you know, say 50,000 a year to that $300,000 a year mark, right? Because once you get to that point, the agencies will start calling you. We talk to those buyers every day. We're pitching them and we ask them, who's doing well for you? Who's easy to work with? What kind of ticket sales do they do? We talk to them every day. We know what numbers are. We also get the reports in Polestar, and we see the numbers of who's selling tickets. So we can find you once you get to that point, you know, but the problem is bridging the gap between that 50K a year mark from like, you know, that regional level to get you to that national and international level. And that's really my lane and has been my lane for 20 years. That's really my specialty, is taking bands from that regional to the national and international level. So, you know, the whole point of all of this, though, is to give the artist control as well. So the software doesn't just send out slop, you know, and just like, you know, you as the artist, you have control over everything that happens. It simply will draft the emails and the copy for the social media and all that. And you, the goal is for the software to do everything, but you need to spend 20 minutes a day per module or per agent to approve the activity before it goes out. So you can approve the emails that, you know, exactly what you want it to say. Now it's going to have a draft of, you know, it's going to do that. And then you can go in and change it for anything that you want. So you get to approve the activity for everything. None of it is going to be weird, like it's coming from, you know, a bot or anything like that. You have full control over that. Okay. And so that is critical because artists are very hesitant about AI for the most part. A lot of them don't trust it. They feel like it's taking their jobs. And on the music production side and the creation side, I sympathize with them there. But this is a tool to help you run your business and to automate the things behind the scenes that they don't see. Like they don't know if the email is coming from a bot or from a human or not. It's an email, right? But
I get a lot of them as a podcaster and as the content creator of the year. A lot of people are seeking us out, and I get the emails from Podcast Pitch and from these different organizations and, you know, these different people who have paid for these AI programs to draft them, and had a conversation today with a podcast booker on the podcast, in fact, who is using the software. And I don't begrudge them at all for it. You have to find ways to be more efficient, especially if you're going to be a one-man show, or, you know, essentially most bands have a person in the band who may be doing this or that, especially these independent artists. This is an absolute game changer, Brad. I am thrilled to get to have this conversation with you, and hope that we get the chance to work together to change the lives of independent artists around the world, because this is what has been most needed. And this is one of the areas that has always traditionally been gate kept the hardest, because this is where the margins were sometimes the biggest.
That's right.
Now that they've been eliminated, almost to the point of, like you said, you know, these bands no longer there are no margins. Well, then to hell with it. Let's just collapse it and break the system completely by redefining and reshaping a new paradigm.
You're right. Agencies have been consolidating for years. You know, going back to when COVID, I mean, like at that point, I mean, agencies were dropping. I mean, they were firing all their agents. I mean, there were some good things that came out of that, but you know, it's just not efficient. The old model is broken. It doesn't work for today's landscape, in my opinion. It just doesn't. And, you know, so, and we can kind of circle back a little bit, you know, most artists, they spend, let's just say around 50 grand, you know, to produce an album, right? And then they do all this work getting together their ticket sales and the tour history to build up to get an agency, right? And let's just say you finally hit that point, you finally get an agent to take you on. And most artists think, oh, I can just sit back. I can just let them do their job. Now I can focus on the marketing and connecting with my fans, right? And they think this is the answer. And about 50% of the time, maybe 40%, that is the case. However, if you're not one of the top grossing artists on that roster for that agency, they're going to do three things for you. They're going to list you on the website. They're going to put you in the newsletter, and they're going to hope the phone rings for you. And if the phone doesn't ring for you, guess what? You're dropped. So you spend all this money, time, and effort to get it to that point. And most of these agencies are just mailing it in. They're just reactive. They're order takers. They're just reactively, you know, hoping the phone rings for you. There are very few agencies that are proactive today that are, you know, you give them a time frame and they go out and fill the dates, regardless of what happens and what the offers. Their job is to fill the dates. And that is kind of, you know, the agency that I used to work with, that's how we were. We were a proactive agency even back then. But that is not the norm in the agency world. So
And
For an
Brad, I'm
artist,
interested in digging into that. Now, was it just booking agents inside of these agencies got lazy, or what broke the system, right? Like, I mean, the money leaving is one thing, but it's not like music is any less desirable in the large scale, right? People still want to go out, or is that the root cause of it, is that people aren't going out like they once did?
it so I think it's a combination of all of those, to be honest with you. But used to labels invested more into developing artists than they do. So there was more of a network that was working together with us as agents. Like when we would sign on a band, we want to make sure that we're in the right stage of the product cycle for you. We want to make sure you have something new coming out. We want to make sure you have a publicist or a team that is going to be marketing your shows. And we would like to see a manager that's going to be, handling the day to day for you, because they speak our language. And sometimes artists, take it personal and don't get the business side of things. So we like for you to have a manager. And then we like for you to have a label for distribution purposes. And the labels used to give signing bonuses, or they would put in more, for your album so that you could spend more money on the marketing. And now they don't really do that. So we would we would sync everything up together with the publicist and the manager and the record label for the timing to be right for an agency to put you on, right? Because if we're putting our name and our butts on the line for you, and we're trying to get you more money, and you don't sell those tickets, it not only hurts you as a band, but it hurts us for any of the other bands that we go to pitch that club or that festival or that venue. Because we're like realtors. Our job is to find the win-win-win for all three parties. And if one side gets screwed, then that's bad business.
And reputation is everything in this game.
It is. It truly is. So that's why we want to make sure that you have a system around you for promo, because we're putting our butts on the line for you. And if we get you more money than what, you're bringing in at the door, there's only so many times the buyer's going to answer my phone call for that. So, I try to make sure our clubs, I treat them like gold. I need to make sure that they are making money on every single deal. Now, they don't have to it doesn't have to be completely one-sided. It has to be a win-win-win for everybody. But anytime a club loses money on my band, I would always go back to them and say, hey, you gave us 1,000 points and rooms on this gig. I know we only had 50 paid on a $10 ticket. I'm going to talk to my artist. We're going to come back in. We're going to try and make this up to you, because we don't want you to lose money. We want to invest in you, and we appreciate you investing in us, and we want to make this right with you. So we'll come back in for $500, maybe $750 this time, promote it better, make $1,500, and then we're back to the 1,000. But we will always want to make sure that, everybody is winning. And that's what good agencies or good agents do anyway. We're not just trying to snow, a venue one time and get in and get out, because they're not going to answer the phone calls for our other bands if we do that.
Right. And that's the biggest thing. You want them, when they see your name up there, to be excited to answer the phone, not avoiding it like a bill collector.
That's right. They want to say, that's Brad. He made me money last time. I'm going to answer his emails. I'm going to answer his calls. I'm not going to ghost him for 4 weeks.
Do you feel like there's a lack of education for independent artists in how to properly market and publicize their events to even get to the level where an agency would want to work with them? And then even after that fact, because it was traditionally something that the labels did.
Yep. You're on the money, man. It's, a lot of what artists don't realize is any artist that you see that is successful, there's money behind them. There just is.
Well, it's a business. And I think that a lot of people just starting out forget that or just don't know better.
Right. And so, at least today, you can run ads on Meta, Facebook and Instagram and even Spotify and bands in town for relatively cheap, but you got to know how to run them. You have to know how to find your lookalike audiences and, to target fans of other bands that are similar to yours to pull them in. And most artists don't have a budget for that because they spend it all on the production of the album and they're out of money, so it's half-hearted, not in the natural sense, but in a financial sense. So it typically breaks down with that.
Well, and if they had any money to really develop an album at all anyway, because traditionally those were the labels investing in those and investing in a lot of, I don't want to like not losers in the, in a personal sense, but in that the bands lost money and got dropped from the labels, that they hemorrhaged enough money to the point where now they're just cannibalizing the rest of the industry to a 0 point. And that's what I see coming, is that it's only a matter of time until it just eats itself completely. And all that's left are independent artists functioning inside of a new paradigm, not the old division, the old industry as it was traditionally since the, 1900, the early 1900s when radio and everything came around.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. It's, and that's why we need a team around us, because we can't do it all. You can't be expected to know every single facet of every single function of running a music business. And, that's what we are trying to solve with the software and with the consulting, because you can learn from our strategies. We've paid ads, we've done campaigns. You can learn from our mistakes at, running ads or creating campaigns for your merch or whatever, like there's so much to do that. Then that's the real value of the consulting and the mentorship. But, going back to what we were talking about a little bit earlier, even if you do make it though, and you sign on with an agency and they drop you, you are right back to square one with that. And,
and even if you had made it to square 5 before the agency got there, if they didn't do anything for you and you lost all that momentum that you had previously, you may be going back to square 0 and really have done yourself a disservice by putting your career in someone else's hands.
That's right. And then, so that is the whole thing that I love about, our system, is that this software only works for you 24 hours a day. It doesn't take vacation. You don't have to wonder what's being done. You can see all the activity that's being done. It doesn't take time off. It just works. It just keeps working. And you just approve the activity just as you would with a human. And so, all the emails that are going out with it, and this is some of the feedback that, we got in the beta testing so far, is, they didn't want the emails to come from @Mogul AI, because they were like, the buyer's going to know this is a bot and it's going to go to spam, and then they're not going to answer my emails. So I was like, okay. So I switched everything over to where they come from @StewartEntertainment.net, which is a reputable booking agency. It's been around since 2014. So it is coming from us. But
comes with a little extra cachet to make it look like you are signed to an agency.
That's right. But you get to approve everything. Like it's, you're approving all the activity, and having that control and the clarity with your business is, to me, is worth the price of the software in itself. Because if you don't, like even if you had a booking agent, all right, and you got them for a deal for 10%, you're doing $100,000 a year. You're going to pay them $10,000 for that year just to book your band. That's it. Okay. We are able to offer booking, marketing, and management with a $2,000 consulting on top of that for $10,000 a year.
Yeah, and that's a flat fee. That's not a percentage. Should you make more than that?
That's right. We don't take, if you make more than that, great. You get to keep that revenue. We don't make a percentage. You only pay us a monthly subscription fee.
Brad, this is absolutely life-changing for so many people, and I'm really glad that we got to talk about it today. And I got some plans that I'd like to talk about you off camera here for helping you talk about it a lot more in the future as well. So
Okay.
with that, go ahead and tell everybody where they can find it, where they can find the software, where they can find you at, and then of course we'll make sure that we get the links in the show notes as well. And yeah, hang out with me after we finish up the show, and I'd like to talk some more.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. So Stewart Entertainment Agency, you can find us at stewartentertainment.net. That's STEWART as in Tom, and then entertainment.net. And then for the software is musicmoguLAI.com. You can see all the different plans and the pricing and everything. We have a quick sign up form that kind of tells us a little bit about your band. I will do a one-on-one call with you as you sign in so that I can have a good understanding of where you are and what your goals are. And I can help craft and tailor, the right structure for you as you progress. And, the consulting is kind of done when you need it. There's no huge contract to lock you in for that. It can be a month to month, whatever, we do kind of create bespoke, custom tailored plans on the consulting because every artist is different and all of their, plans and infrastructure are different. So, but yeah, definitely excited. I really appreciate you having me on. This is amazing. I know that this is going to change the lives for a lot of people. And, right now we're testing this out for the independent artists and musicians. And once that is done, there is a plan for an enterprise level where we will be taking this software to other booking agencies, other management firms, and even record labels so that they can work more efficiently as well. So there's a whole nother level to this that's coming, lots of new features that are going to be built in, and we're just getting started.
Awesome stuff, Brad. Well, thank you so much for everything that you've been doing in the background to help the independent artist. And thank you for being part of the scene.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been great. I really appreciate you.